Welcome to Chautauqua People. Our guest today is Bob Obee. He serves as a corporate trustee at Chautauqua Institution. Bob graduated from high school in Clyde, Ohio, as valedictorian, was a National Merit Scholar, subsequently earned bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees from Kent State University. He's the son and grandson of Methodist ministers. He spent 30 years in the corporate world, where he was among the top 5 in a Fortune 500 company, then 15 years owning a boutique consultancy. A major focus of his career has been in business analytics, particularly in the transportation industry. He is a long-term summer Chautauquan, now resides in Sewickley, Pennsylvania, after spending many years in Asheville, North Carolina. His is a 4-generation Chautauqua family. Bob, how did your family make its way to Chautauqua?
Two parts to that. My own family, the Obees, came through on a vacation one time. My mother, the perfect preacher's wife, had always wanted to see Chautauqua. So we came through and spent one evening at Chautauqua, and I found it magical. I can still remember the fireflies on Vester Plaza and my mother giving me a dime and going to the bookstore and bringing out a balsa airplane and flying it with the other kids. And somehow that left such an impression on me. I couldn't forget it. About 14 years later, my wife's, actually my fiance's family had bought a place near here. And from that year, I've been here almost every one of the 47 succeeding years.
Goodness. And what were the experiences of the first Chautauqua generation? What was their Chautauqua life like?
Well, that would really be my in-laws, and they just fell in love with it due to the intellectual stimulation. They had actually bought originally across the lake, and within 3 years, my mother-in-law had said to Hal, "We've got to have a place on the grounds." So they bought in 1980, and they were hooked on the variety and the intellectual and artistic stimulation and just across the board beauty of Chautauqua.
Let's talk more about Chautauqua a little later here. You had this great career in business. What industries were you employed in?
Oh, I spent a little bit of time in textiles, about 3 years down in South Carolina. Briefly 1 year in petroleum, Ohio and Cleveland. And then I got a call that brought me to Roadway Express Trucking in Akron, Ohio. And I spent the next 25 years in the trucking industry, trucking, logistics, transportation, which was a wonderful career. Truckers move everything ever made anywhere in America and the world. And I had wonderful opportunities to go into many of our customers' plants and see the processes that they use. And we would see literally everything that you use in your home and that businesses use in their businesses. It was a wonderful career.
And then you devised a transportation plan for that product and essential materials?
We were a less than truckload trucking company. Most trucking companies will pick up a trailer at your dock and move it to another dock from one point to another. But a less than trucking company specializes in smaller shipments, too large for UPS, but smaller than a truck. And that kind of company needs to, for efficiency, have a fleet that goes out and picks up within a community, brings it back to a terminal, unloads it, sorts it out by region, loads it to a regional hub. There it gets unloaded again and sorted out to a final terminal for delivery the next day. All of that at the scale we were at, which was 60, 70,000 shipments a day all over America, takes planning, coordination, takes a lot of computers to track every event in every shipment's life and to be able to discern what the costs are of moving one shipment from point A to point B when it goes through C, D, E, F, along with 20 or 25 other shipments. And how do you possibly know your costs and your expenses in a shipment, in a system that complex? That was really my job, was to figure that out and to help it move as efficiently as possible.
So that was a lot of glorified cost accounting for starts.
Cost accounting was a big part of it, and what we called operations research, optimizing the network, deciding exactly where terminals needed to be located, deciding exactly how many trucks and trailers we needed deployed at each terminal, and for every point A to point B in our 600 terminal network, what's the route that shipments are going to take through that network.
What are the criteria to place a terminal?
Well, one of the criteria turns out to be the real estate availability, the zoning, the ability for you to put a trucking terminal in, which is typically not everybody's favorite neighbor. So that's issue number one. But in that hub and spoke, less than truckload network, what you're doing is balancing the proximity of that terminal to local customers, where you go out every day and pick up and then deliver, with proximity to where they're sending their freight. Which direction are they sending their freight? And how do you balance optimally that trade-off between being proximate to the local customers and proximate to where that freight's going to go?
Do you remember putting in any terminals around here?
Sure. We had a terminal in Jamestown. We certainly had a terminal in Erie, and we had a major hub in Buffalo.
Goodness.
Absolutely.
So indeed, you got to learn about the area down the pike. Now, that's a great kind of background. Tell me what activities you've been involved with in Chautauqua.
Oh, at Chautauqua. Well, I would need to back up and say that the last 10 years of my career at Roadway and then 15 years of consulting led me into the IT world also. I ran IT my last part of my career, and I consulted for IT projects. And so on the board, I'm very interested in, curious about, and trying to be helpful with the transition of their IT systems, which is a major project at Chautauqua Institution. They had not been able to invest heavily in IT for many, many years, and recently it's become a priority, and there's been a $5-6 million project spun up over the last 4 or 5 years that is coming off the drawing boards and into reality. So that's one aspect. Principally back to cost accounting. I'm passionate about Chautauqua's financial stability for the next 150 years. Now that we're celebrating this year the first 150 years, I want that to be just the preamble. I came on the board to pay forward what Chautauqua has meant for me for all these years, which is a great deal. And I'm trying to make sure that future generations of not just our family, but everyone that wants to come to Chautauqua will be able to do that and love it the way I've always loved it. So, but I'm involved in the finance committee, the audit committee, working with their IT folks, and just enjoying that responsibility and taking it very seriously.
Now, is there an area where there's a mainframe on the grounds or something of the sort?
No, they were using mid-sized machines, AS400s, which is an older technology, and they're upgrading to more modern technology, which are just machines in racks that plug in and plug out whenever you need to upgrade.
Where are the racks?
Oh, that's a good question. Colonnade, I would think, but I haven't had the physical tour of that yet.
Okay, make them give it to you.
Yeah.
Find some points to pick on. And how does all of this IT background, other than helping Chautauqua to modernize, how does it give you a discipline to work from?
Oh, well, I think my schooling and career always leveraged an organized mind, an analytic mind. Mathematics was always of great interest to me. I did take computer programming way back in the day in college. I was kind of naturally good at it, won some competitions in college at it. And so every job that I've had, John, really throughout my career, has always in some way been analytically oriented, or at least benefited from that analytic orientation.
So it all fits together with Chautauqua cleaning up its system here.
Yeah.
Now, can you mentioned a couple of committees you're on. Can you review the process by which you joined the Board of Trustees?
Sure, be glad to. For I think 60 years this year, another birthday, the property owners at Chautauqua have been represented by a Chautauqua Property Owner Association. And they have been inviting anyone that wants to run for the Board of Trustees to submit applications for their review. Just a point of clarification, those people can go directly to a Chautauqua institution as well. But this Property Owners Association has been providing a service of vetting multiple people that might want to throw their hat in the ring. And they have a very professional process, a nominating committee that sits and interviews the top selections after the paper review. And so you go through a process of vetting by a committee of people at the Property Owner Association, and I was selected last year to be their nominee. That is their recommendation to the community. It's property owners that actually do the voting, and they could vote for anyone from among those people that were vetted by the CPOA or that went directly to the institution. But so far their track record is pretty good. I think perfect that the nominee of the CPOA has been elected by the property owners.
Now, were you involved in the Chautauqua Property Owners Association before this?
I was a member. We've owned our own property for 8 years, and we joined that first year. So I was a member on the CPOA before.
Not an area rep, though.
I hadn't been an area rep. We had a fabulous area rep in our area, and I never had that opportunity.
So they came forward, and you stepped forward and said, "Take a look at me."
Yeah. And for those who would be interested, there's only really one property owner elected or corporate trustee elected each year. They serve a 4-year term. That means there are only 4 of 24 members of the Chautauqua Board of Trustees that are elected by property owners. The other 20 are self-nominated within the current board. So we, corporate trustees, represent about 1/6 of the voting membership of the Board of Trustees.
How was that ratio established?
As I understand it, it was established back in 1905, I believe, by an act of the New York State Legislature, the Chautauqua Corporation Charter. And they designated those numbers, that there'd be 4 property owner elected board members and 20 that are selected by the board, previous sitting board.
So if that ratio was to change, it would probably require an act of the New York State Legislature, wouldn't it?
That's my understanding.
And as an upstate person, I can make bad comments about that. They won't like. So, tell me how the election goes then. You're the nominee.
Okay. We have the responsibility to campaign.
Mm-hmm.
A first in my lifetime. I hadn't campaigned before. We get our name out. I put a mailer into everybody's mailbox at Chautauqua Post Office.
Mm-hmm.
So all the property owners would have received a sheet of paper describing my positions. And in my case, there was one competitor, and he did the same. I sought out opportunities. One of the advantages of CPOA nomination is that they have a tent on Bester Plaza every Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I could appear there, and they would notify folks that if they wanted to come by and meet and greet their nominee this year, this would be a time and place that could happen. So that provided several opportunities. I went around to the various the picnics at the CPOA meetings and tried to meet and greet as many as I could. Advertised a few on my own, just on my side deck. I'll be at this point from here until here, and
Mm-hmm.
come talk to Bob Obee.
Mm-hmm.
And many did. So I probably I think I had 8 different meet and greets during the course of the month and a half
Goodness.
of the campaign, and I probably talked to 200 or 300 folks during that time.
With all this hard work, how much do you get paid as a trustee?
0.
Zero.
Strictly voluntary,
Okay.
which
And
I'm
do you-
happy to do.
And do you get a per diem if you have to travel or to come up here?
You know, I asked that question not because I expected, but I just wanted to know. What I was told was that it's actually voluntary. You could submit your expenses for reimbursement if you'd like. I'm fortunate enough to not feel the necessity for that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of our travel is limited. There is one meeting in February in Washington, D.C. The other 3 meetings are in Chautauqua. I'm 2.25 hour drive away now in Sewickley, PA, so
So that's an easy
it's pretty limited, and I can stay at our owned place here.
cottage.
Yeah.
Good to go, so that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Now, what do you see as the major objectives for your term on the, you now have what, 7 more years, if you get reelected?
Well, I have 3 more years. It's
This
a
term.
4-year term.
Yeah.
I could be revoted for a second 4-year
So
term.
let's say you're fortunate, you have 7 more years. What do you hope to accomplish during that time? We've touched on
Well-
it, not directly, but
Yeah. The main thing I want to accomplish is leaving the board with a greater sense of financial stability than I had coming onto the board. Looking at the financials carefully, I felt some of the expense increase lines were increasing too rapidly. I wondered how we could assure financial stability. I think in my first year, I've already seen changes in the trend lines and movement in the right direction. By the time I get off this board, I want to make absolutely sure that I'm very comfortable with the financial stability of Chautauqua Institution. That's priority 1.
other priorities?
I think that IT transition, frankly, the customer experience at the front gate, for example, at ticketing, at special studies signups, has not been the best and not been what I want it to be. And that IT transition we were talking about really needs to be a priority and needs to be done well.
Mm-hmm.
The money has been committed to it. resources in terms of people have been committed to it, and I just want to make sure that it's executed well. So those are
Good.
probably the top two priorities.
Those are the major two. Now, let's go back for just a minute to the family experience. You're a four-generation Chautauqua family. You only described one generation up,
Yeah.
which makes me say two generations down.
Yeah.
So tell me about them.
Well, my wife and I were the second generation.
Okay.
And it was just the second most fortunate thing to have happened to us, the first being meeting itself, that her parents happened to buy a place near Chautauqua the year we met.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were introduced to the full experience when we were about 24, 25 years old,
Mm-hmm.
before we had any kids, actually before we were married. And so we grew up as young adults learning about Chautauqua and being at first bewildered
Mm-hmm.
and finding that it took at least 2 or 3 years, I think, to get a sense of the rhythm and the cycle of what goes on at Chautauqua during the summer season. Of course, I was mid-career or climbing the ladder, early career, and I could only stay a week or two. Janine could sometimes stay another week with her parents. So because of that, it also took a little bit of time to get our feet on the ground. I came to look at Chautauqua during that early mid-career point as the place that I could relax more completely than anywhere else on earth. And I said that frequently about Chautauqua. It's the one place in the world I can really relax.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's in contrast to climbing the corporate ladder and 60-plus hour weeks and frenzy and frantic and having more and more people reporting up to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll skip ahead because I now say that Chautauqua is this strange dichotomy. It is at once both the place I can relax completely at and the place that is the most intellectually stimulating. Relaxing and stimulating at the same time. That's kind of the magic for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's also different for every person that comes to Chautauqua. My wife came as a young mother. That next generation, our daughter came, you know, in utero.
Mm-hmm.
Our son 2 years later came in utero and then was on the grounds from, you know, every year of their childhood. And that generation had the full, from beginning of life, Chautauqua experience. Mm-hmm. Including, you know, starting at age 3, children's club or children's school,
Mm-hmm.
and having a half day during the week when they're getting their first socializing experience and having their first school teachers that they fall in love with,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole experience. Our kids learned how to ride their bikes at Chautauqua in the summer with friends that they saw every summer right across the street.
Mm-hmm.
So for our kids, Chautauqua, unlike for Janine and I, Chautauqua was in their blood from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, now that they have had our grandkids, they're bringing them right back, and the grandkids are hitting children's school, and the whole life cycle is starting up. So let's see, her parents, myself, our kids, our grandkids, that's the 4 generations, and we're all hooked.
That's great.
on Chautauqua.
That's great. Let's switch gears. We're almost out of time. And there's a question I want you to think about for just a moment, which I always like to ask at the end. You've had a great career in business as a member of Fortune 500 companies leadership. You've had your specialized consultancy company. Now you're looking forward to, we hope it'll be 7 good years of hard work. Not a cakewalk, but hard work on the Board of Trustees. Some young Chautauquan comes to you and says, Mr. Obee, Dr. Obee, I would like to have a career like yours. What would be your advice?
Well, let me start by saying my wife says this board seat has meant more work for Bob than any other board you've ever been on. And it is a hard-working board. And my advice to that young person would be prepared to work hard and set a habit of that early on, whatever that opportunity is. You know, work at an ice cream stand, work you know, at whatever opportunities in business you can have, even as a teenager, young adult. Of course, education is key. That was certainly the key to my success, was education. My wife and I both feel strongly about that. We've been so blessed. We've had the opportunity to start up a small scholarship program at Kent State, which I went to, and I went to because I was from a family of limited means. Our scholarship is aimed at students with limited means as well. Get an education. Get the best education you can. Work hard at that, which is part of that habit forming, hard work, and great education. Those are the key. And then take any opportunity that presents itself to you.
Any particular jobs you would encourage someone to seek?
Well, in these days, I guess I should say artificial intelligence, but there's all kinds of concerns about that as well, and I know that, so maybe parents listening might not appreciate that, but we learn here at Chautauqua every day, and learn today, for example, about the great benefits of artificial intelligence coming in medicine, helping people, saving lives. So, you know, what are the clear trends moving forward in time where you're going to have job security? It's going to be in technology. It's going to be in medicine. It's going to be in helping 70-plus-year-olds get through a wonderful, worthwhile end-of-life experience. Those are some of the key job areas to seek out.
Great. Is there anything else we need to cover?
Oh my. I don't think so, other than the fact that my wife, who's in the studio, is certainly the biggest key to my success.
That's great.
Throughout my career.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I hope you'll come back toward the conclusion of your trusteeship,
Yeah.
and let's talk about reflections.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.